Hello, hello, and welcome to PD in Your PJs. I'm Julie from Seesaw. I'm so excited to be here with you to talk about different ways that you can share activities in Seesaw's new activity library. Just a quick introduction before we go too much farther. I'm really just excited to be here with you and honored that you would take time out of your, busy work week to join me to talk about Seesaw. So I'm very excited to be here to connect with you tonight. Like I said, my name is Julie. I'm out of the high school ELA classroom where I was a teacher for 18 years. So I was using Seesaw every day with 11th and 12th graders. Now I'm on the teacher community team at Seesaw. I work closely with Angela. You might know her from other webinars and trainings. So we do a lot of these PDs at night. So we're glad to be with you again today. I would love if you could connect with me on Twitter. I'm at EdTechJulieJ. I share lots of tips and resources related to Seesaw, and that is a great place to ask me questions or to connect. In case you have a question tonight that I don't get to for some reason, Twitter is a great place to find me. And of course, you can connect with our whole team on Twitter at Seesaw. Now, before we get into all of the activities related content, I want to just be clear that this particular training is not about setting up a class or adding students or just getting started with Seesaw. We have a lot of those trainings. We call our very first one brand new to Seesaw. So if you haven't seen that or taken that webinar, go ahead and click this link later. You can't click anything now during this presentation, but later, if you're registered for this webinar, the slides and the recording are coming your way in an email in a couple of hours. So just open this slide and click where it says brand new to Seesaw, and it will take you right to that resource you need. It's really helpful if you can watch that first training before you get too much farther in with activities, but I'll definitely try to go slow tonight, and we'll save some time for questions at the end. I'm going to pop into the question box just for a minute now to make sure everybody's hearing me okay and connecting okay. Looks good. We have a good crowd here tonight. Again, feel free to type in your activities related questions, and I will go over those closer to the end of the presentation. I'm just so excited about our activity library in general, and I'm assuming you've probably taken some time to browse, to look at all of the resources that are waiting there for you. That's kind of the point of this newly expanded activity library in Seesaw, is that there are literally thousands of teacher-created resources there that are ready for you to use in your classroom and with your students. So if you're new to Seesaw and you're thinking, I just don't know what my students would do in Seesaw, the activity library is a great place to start, because it's going to give you thousands of options and ideas for what your students can be doing in Seesaw. Also, something we like to talk about with teachers is the time-saving aspect of the library. This is a great way for your students to show what they know in a digital space like Seesaw, and that might result in you lugging home fewer papers or binders or notebooks, because you get to see everything your students have created and see what they know looking at that all in one place digitally. So that's kind of, I guess, what we want you to know about the library as you get going with this particular training. So tonight in our session, this is what we're going to be talking about. We're really focused on sharing activities. And of course, we want to make sure that you have the skill of knowing how to share those activities with your students. But beyond that, in this training, I'm going to talk about how you can share activities from the library with other teachers, like maybe colleagues in your school or other teacher friends. Then I'm going to also make sure to demonstrate for you how to share activities with more than one Seesaw class at once. I know for me as a high school teacher, that would have been super helpful, that particular feature. So I want to make sure to demonstrate that for you. And then also, if you're at a school that's using our paid product, Seesaw for Schools, I'll show you how you can share activities with your school library. But first things first, I definitely want to take a minute to emphasize this, because it's really important and might save you some frustration later with your students. So if your students use Seesaw on a computer, they're going to app.seesaw.me in a web browser. So maybe you're doing that right now. Maybe that's how you access Seesaw on your computer, app.seesaw.me. But if you have students, or if you yourself are using Seesaw's class app, and you can see the icon in the middle of the screen there, if you're using the class app, like on an iPhone or an iPad or a Kindle or an Android tablet of some kind, we just want you to know that you need to be using the version that is at least Seesaw 6.0 or higher. Okay, you need to be using the most updated version of the mobile app of Seesaw, because all of these activity features were updated over the summer, and we want to make sure you're accessing the most up-to-date app so that you can see all these features. So this is what I mean when I say I'm trying to save you some frustration. If your students are getting on Seesaw and they're all using school iPads and they haven't been updated for some reason, be sure to reach out to your IT or the people who handle the hardware in your school, because sometimes teachers don't even have the permission to update those apps, and you have to have somebody in a tech role in your school do that. So just make sure you're working with an updated app, and that's you yourself as the teacher, but also students that you're wanting to share activities with, because it's not going to function for them properly if they're not using an updated version of Seesaw. Okay, now this particular training is not hands-on, so I don't need you to be doing anything in real time with me tonight. I just want to be sure to give you that reminder so that that will save you a little bit of time and some steps later when you're getting started with students. Okay, so let's talk about this library, and I want to assure you that most of our presentation tonight will be a live demonstration, and it won't just be me clicking through slides. I'll jump out of the slides here in just a sec to get in a Seesaw class and demo for you. But I just want to remind you, and like I said, I think you probably know that when you're in the activity library, you can browse or filter by grade level, subject area. You can look at those collection colorful tiles, or you can search by keyword and search for exactly what you want. In fact, I would say if you're watching me on a recording, like if you found this on YouTube or you're watching the recording of tonight's live presentation, you can pause right now and take a few minutes to browse the activity library. You can see how to do that. You click that green add button in your class when you're logged in as a teacher, and you can browse. So feel free to pause now and browse. And then what I want to emphasize to you is that you're looking for that heart on an activity, and you want to turn that heart pink. You want to like an activity, and that will save the activity to your library. Okay, so I want to make sure that you know when you're in the activity library, you can kind of be doing two things. You can be browsing, just shopping or looking for activities, but you want to click that heart and turn it pink anytime you think it's an activity that you really want to use, because liking it will save it to your library. Okay, you want to save it so that you can use it later. And that's an important first step, because if you're going to share these activities with your students, because you want your students to respond to the activity, you need to like it so that it saves it to your library. Okay, just wanted to make sure you knew that. We're going to hop into that live demo, like I said. So I'm just showing you a screenshot there. I happen to pick 4th grade science just as an example there, but I'm going to take you right in real time, and we'll do some things together in the library. Remember, as you're thinking about it, if you have questions, you can type them in and I'll take them at the end. And when I'm answering questions at the end, I can jump back here into this class and I can demo anything you want to see at that time. Okay, so I'm in a demonstration account or a demonstration class. We use this for trainings and workshops, kind of like what I'm doing with you right now. So this is a sample or demo class that we're calling Mrs. V's 4th grade. And this word teacher here just reminds you that as you're looking at my screen, you're in a class where I am the teacher. I'll show you it from a student view in just a second. You can see that this is my teacher profile icon. I'm logged in as a teacher. This is my journal here. This is like my feed of student posts. And then the activities that I've shared with my students are in the activities tab. I'm just reminding you that those two things are there. Here's my roster of demo students. And of course, to get to the activity library, I'm clicking that green add button and I'm clicking browse activity library. And when I see that blue bar at the top, that's telling me that I'm now in the library. So thousands and thousands of activities are waiting for me in the Seesaw library. You can see that I'm kind of twirling my mouse there to show you that this tab is like bold. You know that I'm in the library. Thousands of activities here. You can filter by grade and by subject, and you can search by keyword. The activities that I save or that I like by turning these hearts pink, those are going to stay in the My Library tab. So that's associated with my teacher account. It's not associated with any one class. It's associated with my teacher account. Okay, so the Seesaw library is thousands of activities, and the My Library are the ones that I have saved or liked, or even if I have created them, they're in my account and they're under My Library. And briefly at the end tonight, I'll talk to you about the Seesaw for Schools school library so you get an idea of how that would work. So we're not going to spend too much time talking about browsing because I want to talk more about sharing, but just as a reminder, when you see these colorful tiles, those are collections. They're grouped together. Okay, so activities that have something in common, they're grouped together. You'll see those at the top at any grade level. You'll see collections. You actually will also see collections towards the bottom. And I'm just scrolling down quickly so you see that there are more down here. And anytime you see this bar, this type of gray bar, you can scroll even further to see more. Okay, so that's just telling you there's even more content there that's available to you. And you have some subject areas down here if that's easier for you to click there. Or like I said or showed earlier, you can also filter by subject there at the top. So feel free, again, if you're listening to this as a recording, pause. Feel free to pause for a minute and browse. I recommend if you find something that you think you would really use with students, click that button there, that heart, and turn it pink, because that means you're liking it or saving it to your library. Okay, so let's talk about the different ways that we can share activities, okay? The first and foremost thing we want to make sure we know how to do, so we want to get these activities to our students, right? Like these are our activities, these are the ones in my teacher account in my library. And I want to make sure my students can respond to this activity, that they are completing it or doing it. I want my students to do this activity. So I've already turned this heart pink. I've liked it, which really just means I've saved it to my own account or to my library. And now once I've done that, you can see that I have this option here to share the activity. This button doesn't show up unless I have turned that activity pink with the pink heart. And I also have some options here that I myself can group it with some other things into a collection, or I can duplicate it to make changes to it if I want. It would not change Miss Beardane's version of this activity, but if I wanted to change some of the words, I could do that by copying and editing it and changing a few words. Okay, just reminding you that those are some options that are there once I have liked or saved the activity. But now I want to get it to my students, and this is going to be a cool part of the demo, because in just a second, I'm going to show you the view from a student's perspective, what it looks like after I have shared the activity. So remember, I have chosen this activity from the library, created by a teacher contributor, Rebecca here that you see. She created this activity. I'm going to choose to save it or like it, which I've already done, and now I want to share it with my students, okay? So all I have to do is click this green button. And what I'm going to see here as a teacher is every one of my classes. Okay, so I use this account for a lot of demonstrating, right? Like this PD session. So I have quite a few classes here. You might have fewer. If you're teaching one class of third grade, you probably don't have this really long list of classes. But I bet if you teach big kids, you have quite a few. I know when I was a high school teacher, I had a first hour Seesaw class, a second hour, and so on. So you have a list here of every one of your classes. And then what you're going to do is you're going to select which class or classes you want to share it with. I told you later I would show you how to share it with more than one class, and you can probably guess that all I'm doing is just checking the boxes here, and that's going to let me share it with more than one class at a time, which is super handy. In this case, for this demo right now, I'm sharing it with Mrs. V's fourth grade. Okay, that's the class I'm in, and I'm going to show you what it looks like as a student. Seesaw's asking me if I'm ready to share it with one class. If I clicked a couple of different classes, Seesaw would tell me I'm sharing it with two classes. And while we're on the screen, I might as well just show you too that if I need to differentiate something in my classroom and I don't want to share this activity with everyone, if I want to share it with everyone, that's going to automatically be clicked, but maybe I only want to share it with Claire and Emily, I can do that. So I'm differentiating a little bit and sharing this one activity with just this pair or group of students. That's also super handy. But I actually, for this demo, I'm going to share it with everybody, okay? I just wanted to show you that was there. I also can pre-tag it into a certain folder, okay? If I wanted to, I could. So that way, I'm not relying on the students to later put it in the right folder. I'm just automatically doing that as the teacher. That's also super helpful too, okay? So I'm sharing it with all of my students. And then like always in Seesaw, the last step seems like it's always a green check mark. So I'm going to do the green check mark, and then I'm going to say I'm sharing it with my classes. And then Seesaw is actually giving me a reminder here, this is what's going to happen. My students just need to be logged into Seesaw, and then they're going to respond to the activity. So I have shared that with my students. I'm going to show you that from the student perspective in a second, but let me show you what it looks like from the teacher perspective. Remember, this is my teacher account. This is my feed or my journal view of everything that students have posted. But if I, as the teacher, want to see what activities I've shared with my class, I can see them here. And you saw that I shared this one in real time. You can see it's time-stamped here. I just now shared this activity with my class, and I'll show you what that looks like from the point of view of a student. As a teacher, I have this awesome option here to click this gray bar, and what it's going to show me is who has responded. And of course, no one has. I just shared it a second ago. But as my pretend students start responding to this activity, I would be able to see their responses here all in one screen. And I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. Okay, I'm connected to this class as a student. It's kind of fancy here. I'm switching devices and now I'm on an iPad. You can see I'm logged in here as a student. Okay, so you don't see the word teacher there. I'm logged in as a student. While I'm on this device, I'll show you just to demonstrate. When a student, watch what I'm doing there, when a student hits that green add button, I want to point out that they don't have the option to explore the library. So, you know, as a teacher, when I click the green plus or the green add, I see browse activity library. When I'm a student, I don't see that option. So just so you know, students are not browsing the library. You can share your activities with them that you browse in the library, but they aren't doing that. Okay, I'm a student. This is a student demo account. If I want to see what activities my teacher has shared with me, I'm clicking that activities tab, and look, there's the one just now popping up, the one that I, as the teacher, just shared a second ago. And as a student, I see some instructions for me, and I can keep those instructions in view the whole time I'm completing the activity. I could even listen to an audio recording of instructions, and that's super helpful for pre-readers or for our littlest learners. So that's a great option to play those instructions. But as a student, what I want to do is always start by tapping, after I've read the instructions, tapping that add button. If you have kids on shared devices, you'll have to have them choose their name. If you have bigger kids and they're logged in with email or Google, they won't necessarily have to do this in this order. But in this case, since I'm sharing a device, I have to pick my name, and I'll go ahead and say I'm Jordan. And then I have the option to respond to the activity. My teacher has shared it with me, and now I, as a student, can respond. I'm just doing this real quick so that you can see what it looks like when a student responds. I don't want to take too much time out of the demo to do that, but I just want to show you what it looks like so you know. I'm responding as a student, clicking the green check mark, and I just want to show you from a teacher screen what it looks like once the student has responded to the activity. I'm going to pop back into my teacher view. Okay, so I'm on that iPad uploading as a student, and now I'm back to my teacher screen, and I can see here that actually I probably just need to approve. I was the pretend student of Jordan a second ago, and now I have the option as a teacher to approve that response. It's just moving a little slower than I wanted it to. I'm not sure if it's just, okay. Okay, here we go. I have my review button, and then I can tell it I'm going to approve this response. Goodness gracious. There's the button that I needed. Approve, approve. And then now pretend student Jordan's response is approved, and then a connected family member wouldn't see anything that Jordan did until the teacher had approved it, and then it showed up in the feed view. Okay, sorry, that was a little slower than I meant for it to be. I was trying to use two devices and talk all at the same time. Got a little out of order. All right, so we saw what it looked like to start by exploring the library. We did that. We shared the activity with our students, and as a student, I responded to the activity and posted it here. As a teacher, I approved it, and now it's here. As a teacher, this is to me the most cool thing to see, is just where you can see all those student responses all in one place. So if I had pretended to be all of these students, what's really handy, and this is where we get into that kind of time-saving feature, is I could see all of these responses all at a quick glance, and maybe if almost everybody was done, but maybe I was waiting on this one and it was blank, I would know, oh, okay, I only have one student who's left to respond and it's Lily and I need to touch base with her. And remember, I kind of got stuck on this screen a second ago. I have to scroll down to the bottom to see the option to approve the post. Okay, let's go back into that library view because there's just a couple of other things I want to show you. I think I was able to show you how to share with a group of students, one student, all students, or how to share with more than one class. I also want to make sure though that I show you how to share not just with other students or to share this activity with students, but how to share it with other teachers. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Rebecca's activity because I liked it so much. This is the step that I took to share it with my class here, right? But if I want to share this activity with other teachers, I also have some really great options here. If you're on social media in our community on Facebook or Twitter and you see people saying, hey, we did this word sort activity in class, and then they share a link, this is where they're getting the link of the activity. They're getting it right from that share button, and then they're grabbing that activity link. And that's super helpful. I think everybody really appreciates that in our Twitter community and in our Facebook groups, that if you are finding an activity that you really like and you want to share it with other teachers, pasting the link is super helpful. So copying that and then pasting it in on your social media feed. I'm frozen here somehow. I can't make it go back. Okay, let me think it wants me to paste and I can't. Okay, thanks for being patient with me in real time as I demo here. So it's from that screen, that share button where you can copy and then later paste the link to an activity. And that's really helpful, like on Twitter and Facebook I was saying, because if you have an activity that you like and it was successful in your classroom and you're taking pictures of it and wanting to share it in one of our communities, in one of those social media platforms, it's helpful to share the link. Okay, so the other thing I will show you here too, and remember I was doing that all from the share button, I can click here and that's where I generate that link. You can also go right to one of those social media platforms by clicking this, but I always go to copy the link, although you can see I kind of got frozen there for a second. If you're in a Seesaw for Schools school, you also see this button to share to your school library. So if you're not in a Seesaw for school, this just won't appear here and you don't need to worry about that. But if you do have the service Seesaw for Schools, you want to make sure you're using that to its full capacity, because if you're a first grade teacher and you have a word sort that worked with your students, you want to make sure that everybody else that's teaching first grade in your school or district has access to it too. And so you want to share that activity there as well. And you can toggle different grade levels here. You know, you can give more information here. You can tag subjects, and then you can add it to your school's library. And that's just a way for you to collaborate with other teachers in your building, or depending on your Seesaw for Schools subscription, if it's your district or just your building. But like, you're just making sure that everybody is looking at the same set of activities together in your school library. If you create activities on your own too, not just the ones you find in the activity library, you can also put them in the school library, which is super helpful. And that school library tab actually is here. So in this particular demo account, you can see a few of the things that we've added to the school library. Okay, so I'm going to hop back into the slides because there's just a few more things I want to say before we jump into the questions. We took a look at a lot of things. I want to remind you that my best tip for you if you're just getting started in the activity library is to look for the collection, look for one of these colorful tiles that is the Getting Started collection for your grade. So Seesaw is going to automatically take you into the library in your grade level, but look for the Getting Started collection for your grade, because those activities are designed and curated really specifically to introduce your students to Seesaw, one creative tool at a time. So if you have never done activities and you're just getting started, look for the collection called Getting Started for your grade level. Again, one tool at a time. I embedded this video here for you. Remember, these slides are coming your way in an email in just a few hours. I'm obviously not going to have you watch this video within our training, but if you need this as a resource to remind yourself later about what the steps are that we kind of went through in our demo, how do I get this activity to my students, this video will help you understand that. And I also wanted to show something here in the form of screenshots that you did not see in my demo a second ago. So remember, I was using a demo account that's part of a Seesaw for Schools demo account. And so I had the button here that said save to the school library. If you're not in a Seesaw for Schools school, you'll see this button that says email to teachers. So I actually could take the activity that I did. I showed you how to copy the link, and maybe you could share it on Twitter or something, but you actually could just click this button that says email to teachers, and it would send something like this to one of your teacher colleagues or friends, and it would say, hey, I did this with my students, this is the activity, this is what it looks like. And I actually think that's really cool because you could give them all of that info. I like the idea of having the link to paste on social media, but this is kind of another cool option too, because you would recognize this coming in your email that, oh, it came from a friend, my friend tried this activity. It's kind of just a cool way to share what you're doing on Seesaw. Okay, I also wanted to include this in one of the slides for you too, mostly just for reference later if you open the slides. I just want to remind you about activities. If you're using free Seesaw, you can have 100 activities in your library. They're associated with your account, not your class. If you're using Seesaw Plus, you can have 500. And if you're on Seesaw for Schools, you have unlimited activities. I just wanted to keep this there for you for reference. It's probably not something you're worried about right now, but just so you'll know, and you can answer questions about it if you have a colleague who asks. As always, your first stop when you're stuck with something on Seesaw is always the Help Center, okay? So whenever you're stuck or having any sort of question or technical difficulty, always go to help.seesaw.me. You have 3 different places you can ask a question. You have all these subject buttons here. It's pretty robust, and you can usually find a lot of what you're looking for there. I'm about to wrap up, but I want to take some time to answer questions, of course, and I just want to give you a reminder, if you can, we really value your feedback, so if you have an extra minute after we conclude tonight, if you can just answer some questions. Answer the questions that pop up on your screen and give us some honest feedback. We really appreciate it, and that's how we make our sessions better. I'll leave this screen up for a while because mostly it just shows you some some links for where you can access more of our resources or where you can connect with our community. And remember, I'm Julie. You can find me on Twitter at EdTechJulieJ. I think what I'll do now is pause our recording. I was recording this, of course, so that I can send it out in an email to you in a few hours, but I might pause our recording, but just stay online a few minutes to answer questions. I've been demoing for a while and I haven't looked in the question box, so I'm not sure what's waiting there for me, but I'm excited to see what you have to talk about related to activities, and I'm happy to help. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. I can't wait to see you in PD again soon. Bye-bye.